Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Barcelona, Chelsea, second leg at the Camp Nou. Who would go on to the quarterfinal of the Champions League? Would it be Messi and Barcelona? Would it be Hazard and Chelsea? Would we get another European classic match? How would Chelsea approach the game knowing that they need to score? And what would this serve for Barcelona? Would they defend? Would they push forward and try to steamroll Chelsea? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, I'm going to briefly break down Barcelona against Chelsea. When we look at Barcelona against Chelsea, we look at the first leg. Messi scores the vital away goal, his first goal against Chelsea, and it puts Chelsea in a position where they have to score at Camp Nou if they're looking to progress. How would they approach the game? Would they be a bit more defensive? Would they play with a three-man back line? We look at the board. We got Chelsea in the blue. We got Barcelona in the red. Barcelona more of a 4-4-2. Messi, Suarez up front. Iniesta on the left. Dembele on the right. Rakitic and Busquets in midfield. No real changes. We look at Chelsea. They play more of a 4-3 or a 3-4-2-1. They got Giroud up front. They got Hazard and Willian just in behind him. And midfield, Conte and Fabregas as wingbacks. They have Moses and Alonso. You look at the game, and within the first 3 minutes, Barcelona are ahead. How does that happen? Well, it kind of shifts how Barcelona were playing. And we have to look at Dembele. We have to look at Messi. Basically, there were two key movements in what they did. If Barcelona had Suarez up front, which they often did, looking to break in behind the line, play off the last shoulder, they would have Dembele up front. If Dembele was playing higher or a bit wider up front, Messi would take up these positions to get on the ball. You don't want to leave Dembele alone, so that creates space. Deeper in positions, and Messi would drop off here to get on the ball. He'd drop off to the flanks. He'd drop off in the half spaces. Sometimes that role would be reversed. Messi would be floating up high, trying to find space in between the lines. What would happen was that Dembele would stay wide, and they would ensure that he provides the width. Because when Dembele provided the width, what would happen was that Barcelona looked more like this, a three-man midfield. In a sense where Iniesta always kept a narrow shape. Busquets and Rakitic were really set in the center of the pitch, and they had Dembele spreading out wide. And the same thing would happen there. He would still provide that width. He would play high to the right. He would stay closer to the last man right over there. And that was very key to what Barcelona were doing. You look at the first goal, a bit of luck, a bit of good fortune. Messi plays it into Dembele. Suarez is there. Messi continues to run. Suarez backheels it to him. He scores from an angle that he shouldn't score from. Courtois should save it, and he scores with his weaker foot. Poor goal for Chelsea to give up. But when you look at what Chelsea were doing, let's get these guys back into shape. This is Messi, this is Dembele. Chelsea weren't bad without the ball, and was somewhat of the same approach they took from the previous game, where they played a narrow 4-5-1, and it worked out in this favor. And it kind of leads questions to maybe why Hazard just started. We know what Hazard doesn't bring to you defensively, he could bring to you offensively, but the way Barcelona played the game was the fact that he was able to drop onto Messi if that happened. Willian was able to stay with Iniesta. Obviously that didn't last for long. We didn't see these phases of defensive schemes from Chelsea throughout the game, because they were actually on the front foot for a lot of it, and they kept the lines narrow in between. And even if Messi switched over and Dembele moved to the right, what would happen was that Alonso would push wide there, and then Alba and Sergio Roberto weren't really willing to get forward. Roberto doesn't really offer that threat going forward as well. He's more of a central midfielder. He's naturally a central midfielder. So Hazard wasn't really pushed or pegged to defend as much. So Chelsea were good in that respect. And obviously Barcelona didn't create as many chances as you'd expect them to. What happened is that Chelsea kind of pushed forward. And how did they do that? Well, one, they started to press from the front, and Barcelona couldn't really, they had problems building from the back as they normally do in La Liga, pushing forward, having Busquets and Rakitic dictate the tempo of the game. The other aspect of it was that Barca couldn't cope with the front three. We look at it, and what happened is that it shifted their defense. They had to play more of a narrow backline because they couldn't leave the three against the two. So that happened. And then what happened there for Chelsea was that there were spaces out wide. Obviously Iniesta's here. and he played a bit more narrow, but there was lots of space for Victor Moses in the opening minutes. Victor Moses, great going forward, but his final product, the crossing, the decision-making, was very poor, and Chelsea never really got anything from him. On the opposite flank, though, Marcos Alonso was key. He always seems to be a big game player for Chelsea since he joined the club under Conte, and what happened initially was that he was getting forward into positions. We saw diagonals getting punted out to him. He was delivering crosses into the box that were blocked, obviously, first-time crosses. The other aspect was that he was getting shots on goal. He forced Ter Stegen into a big save towards the end of the half. He hit the post on a free kick, and Alonso was the key threat. And what happened was that Dembele eventually had to drop a bit deeper, and he was willing to do that job. And Barcelona became more of a 5-3-2 without the ball for most parts of the game because of that, and that was really key. So Dembele starts to track him, and when we look at that, we look at some of the best Chelsea chances that they had, more so in the second half, when Alonso had 3 great opportunities. One where he was played in, I'm pretty sure by Hazard or Willian, into the box, and Dembele makes a vital save after they hit Barcelona on the counterattack. The other aspect is that he got played in from Willian, who cut in from the left. He turns Busquets and then gets pulled down by Piqué. Was it a penalty? Was it not? We'll leave that to the officials. And then the third opportunity, he gets played in again, this time by Hazard. And what happens there? He delivers a cross into the box, but Piqué blocks it. Marcos Alonso was pivotal throughout. They had to have Dembele hold him down. And then that was one of the key aspects to that. When we look at what Chelsea did well is that they didn't really have any options Barcelona didn't really have any options for the front 3. Giroud did well for certain spells, more so at the start of the game, nodding down a ball for Hazard and Willian combining. They couldn't stop Willian's pace once again. There were several occasions where he turned defense into attack, ran forward. Again, the lack of productivity in the final third was key. That didn't really go well for him. Hazard did well as well during spells, drifting out to the left. Eventually, they had Sergio Roberto mark him. But one of the key aspects that led Chelsea to have so much possession was the fact that when Barcelona did press, and they did press in the second half, and they forced Chelsea into some errors. We'll get to that in a second. What happened was that when they did press from the front, they would have the front 2 press on the midfield 2, press on the midfield 2, but then Hazard with Roberto on him was able to drift out and get on the ball in central positions. What happened there was that there were times in the first half where Busquets would press out to Hazard, or he'd track Hazard, Fabregas would get on the ball. Fabregas was able to play diagonals. The same thing for Conte. They never really got to grips with who they were going to mark and how they were going to mark because of Hazard's movement. Conte moved to the left sometimes and charged forward. Conte had a great chance in the second half where he dispossessed Busquets, ran past 3 Barcelona players, flashed his shot wide, but Conte himself was great. He was tracking runs. He dispossessed Messi and Suarez on several occasions. He's the engine, the heartbeat to this Chelsea side. He broke up play religiously, and he's one of the reasons why they didn't get beaten by more, because he was so pivotal in that role and using that energy to recycle possession, to win back possession, and send the players forward. But when you look at it, yeah, Conte would sometimes drift out to the left to get on the ball, try to push Rakitic out. Busquets didn't know what to do. Should he track Hazard? Should he push to Fabregas? When he pushed to Fabregas, Hazard got on the ball. When he tracked to Hazard, when he pushed to Fabregas, Hazard got on the ball. When he tracked to Hazard, Fabregas got on the ball. So it was very difficult for them to really work that out, but they were good without the ball. They made vital tackles throughout the second half. They did play more of a 3-man back line. They ended up taking off Iniesta. They brought on Paulinho. When you look at the goals that Chelsea conceded, you have to question, how did that happen? You look at the first goal, then you look at the second goal. After they're dominating the game for spells, the one time when Fabregas coasts on the ball for a bit, Messi dispossesses him, runs past 3 players. And the goal was really great because it leads Messi in a situation where he's 1v1 with Azpilicueta. Rudiger's there. Rudiger stays in his position, but it's Suarez's run that drags Rudiger out of position. And then Dembele's able, Messi locates the run. He catches out Dembele there. Superb finish. Courtois should still save it. 2-0 Barcelona. Then you look at the start of the half. It's Dembele's pressure that forces Courtois into a weak clearance to Azpilicueta that leads Suarez in on goal, but Courtois makes a save. Then you look at the third goal. Barcelona pressing once again, and it's Andre Gomez who came on after for Busquets. We look at it. Gomez presses from the front. We have the three-man back line there. And what happens is that Gomez presses. Get this midfield in set. Gomez presses. The pass is poor. It goes to Alba, who intercepts the pass, sets in Suarez. Suarez runs at Christensen. Christensen steps back, probably should tackle. Messi gets the ball that's teed up for him. He runs past two defenders and slots it past Courtois. But when you look at the game as a whole, Barcelona did defend well, but contrary to popular belief, where people that follow La Liga regularly think that they intended to sit back and defend and soak up pressure, that wasn't the issue. Chelsea hit them with so many different weapons that they didn't really know what was coming at them, in the sense that the three-man forward line did do well. They didn't have an answer for Willian on the counterattack. They couldn't stop Hazard. Giroud, the one thing with him was that sometimes you need that a bit of mobility, that movement off the ball, but he did well to hold up the ball. He fought for aerial duels. He stayed close to Hazard and Willian, and that really benefited them. The wing backs getting forward, Alonso was pivotal. It took a few vital blocks and last-ditch tackles to really stop that. And the Conte Fabregas, they didn't know who to press in terms of Fabregas. If Fabregas had a better game, who knows what the outcome could have been like. But again, he's culpable for the second goal. The first goal is a bit of bad luck and poor goalkeeping from Courtois. And then the third goal, they were pressed and they made a mistake on the press and were punished by Lionel Messi. Chelsea, great game plan, not enough execution. Barcelona defended well, made last-ditch tackles, and when you have the best player in the world, arguably the best of all time, he will make you pay, and he did here. But let me know what you guys think. Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.